So the 60 series is usually a mid-range kind of video card. It's mid-performance, mid-pricing. Some can perform better than others depending on the manufacturers, but they are mid-range, mid-priced video cards. Now, the 3000 series, the latest NVIDIA Ampere architecture video cards, changes all that. It purely obliterates any performances metric of its previous generation, the 2000 series. And the 3060 Ti heavily benefits from this architecture. And to our benefit, ASUS has decided to tough it out a little bit, further pushing an already monstrously powerful video card. Today we are reviewing the TUF Gaming GeForce RTX 3060 Ti from ASUS, which pushed and turned an already powerful architecture into one of the most desirable video card you can own at that price range. And talking of desires, I understand that TUF stands for the ultimate Frenchman. ASUS very tribute to me. Now, TUF is ASUS branding for more rugged, resistant, focused family of components which still keeps budget in mind, if that's possible. They are usually more low-key in terms of design, less bombastic, and less featured than its more expensive ROG sibling. But instead it brings a very specific focus onto the robustness of the product and its engineering. Basically, the last component to die in your build should be a TUF one. And at about $470 before taxes, it's $70 more expensive than the NVIDIA's Founders Edition variant of the 3060 Ti. And the whole idea, or the whole question here is it worth it? Does the TUF bring enough on the table for you to spend that extra $30? Well, starting with the obvious. The TUF Gaming 3060 Ti comes with a significantly larger cooling block than the NVIDIA's Founder Edition. It is also thicker, filling 2.7 slots, which is more or less what all of the new video cards are doing anyways. It has 5 display outputs supporting no less than 8K gaming at 120 frames per second. Let's note the addition of a second HDMI 2.1 port, which is a TUF add-on, perfect for people who both want to power a monitor and say a VR headset without swapping a bunch of cables around. It is powered by NVIDIA's very own GA104-200, an 8nm written die featuring no less than 17.4 billion transistors organized in 4,864 CUDA cores, 152 tensor cores, and 38 ray tracing cores. More than twice the amount of CUDA cores of its previous iteration, the 2060 Super, but most importantly, 1,800 more CUDA cores than a much more expensive RTX 2080, which I'll remind you, until a few months ago used to go at about $800. Add to that a copious 8GB of DDR6 RAM with a net result of 448GB per second of memory bandwidth. The same memory bandwidth that you'll find on both the RTX 3070 and the RTX 2080. And you see where I'm going with that. The RTX 3060 Ti is basically a monstrous gaming machine which completely blows out of the window all performance metric that we had at that price range before. But it doesn't end here. Instead of its usual 1.41 GHz base clock, ASUS has cranked up their puppy to a steamy 1785 MHz in OC mode. Now, how did ASUS power this titan of a configuration? We have no less than 850 amps power stages. That is 400 amps worth of power to feed our GPU and its larger area. And being a TUF, the capacitors have been reinforced with what ASUS likes to call military-graded capacitors. And it's hard for me not to make fun of ASUS bombastic marketing with their military-graded stuff. Because obviously, if you're in a military scenario, in a war, you'd rather have this in your pocket than a rifle, for sure. But more seriously, what it means that these capacitors were reinforced and can last about twice its competition lifespan at about 5,000 hours. Powerful, durable, ASUS gave the 3060 Ti what it needed to make it its own and give that engineering focus I was talking about earlier. So a big engineering kudos to ASUS for this. Now, despite those impressive specs, I have to say, the TUF 3060 Ti is impressively energy efficient. It idles at only about 16 watts per hour and inputting about 220 watts whilst gaming with short bursts at about 250 watts. But that also translates in the fact that you'll need a smaller power supply unit. You'll be able to run an entire system with the 3060 Ti at its heart with about 600 watt, which also makes it another savings for a sub $1,000 gaming battle machine. But where ASUS really shined with the TUF 3060 Ti is in the video card cooling abilities. We have this beautiful, large, 2.7 slot tall fin stack. Fed by 4 large diameter copper pipes, it does an impeccable job at radiating away most of our GPU heat. In addition, it is topped by 3 90mm 0dB fans, which thanks to its dual ball bearings, can last up to a whopping 60,000 hours each, twice more than our usual sleeve bearings. Now, I did try to gather a bit more information about those fans because chances are that the only maintenance you'll have to do on your video card is to swap fans here and there. And the only thing I could find is that it's made by a company called Champion, which has absolutely no website and has this very self-explanatory name. A CF901OU12D brushless fan. Again, very self-explanatory. But cooling result-wise, well, it's like I said earlier, absolutely impressive, if not very top of its class. During a full hour stress test, the capacitor showed an ice-cool 51 degrees Celsius, which surprised me enough to repeat my temperature testing a couple of times. The GPU remained at about 65 to 70 degrees Celsius all along the stress test, which is equally impressive. In fact, the combination of this massive fin block with this really 3 efficient fans gives us one, if not the coolest card on the market for that type of performances. Another cool feature I'd like to mention, the fans stop spinning when GPU temperatures fall below 55 degrees Celsius, ensuring silence while you're engaged in lower intensity activities on your desktop. And when they do spin, well, they're almost silent anyways, giving me a barely noticeable 35 decibel when left on auto in the midst of gaming. But all that is good and fine, but what about gaming performances? Well, I have tested the 5 most demanding games I know of, with different graphic engine to have a rather general idea, accurate idea of what this video card can do. Starting with the sumptuous Cyberpunk 2077 at ultra ray tracing and, well, ultra everything else. And it was more than playable at 1080dp as well as 1440dp, but it did start to show some faiblesse at 4K. Still, it is incredibly performant and surpasses what an $800 card like the 2080 used to allow just a couple months ago. Same story with Watch Dogs Legion, Call of Duty Cold War, where I saw frame rates consistently above 75 in Ultra 1K, and still pretty much playable at 4K, though I had to reduce settings to high instead of Ultra. 3D Mark gave me a score of 11,264, again surpassing its much more expensive RTX 2080 sibling, but it also did confirm my temperatures finding, which again are ridiculously good. Now, one more point, and a contentious one, I am afraid. The TUF 3060 Ti is PCIe 4.0 enabled, which doubles its available bandwidth per PCIe lane. Unfortunately, this is not going to translate in any kind of performance gain on a PCIe 4.0 compliant computer build, simply because the entire 3000 RTX series still does not produce enough bandwidth to bottleneck the previous PCIe 3.0 standard. So yeah, great for marketing, but that's about it, I'm afraid. Software-wise, first I'll note the presence of a dual BIOS switch, which is rare enough on even expensive video cards. And I cannot stress enough how cool that is, because in a simple tick you will be able to go from silent to OC or performance mode without having to go play in your GPU-Z options and configuration altogether. So definitely something with a real plus, and which does not cost really a lot. So definitely something that the TUF 3060 Ti competition should take note of. Obviously, the card is fully supported by ASUS now very well-known GPU Tweak 2, which gives a more detailed customization ability to your card. Now, ASUS being ASUS, we do have a rather discreet but very stylish RGB strip backlighting a TUF logo, and obviously it is Aura compliant. But I really want to note how much I love the strong underlined touch of that RGB strip. Now, in conclusion, at about $470 before taxes, The TUF Gaming GeForce RTX 3060 Ti, well, is an absolute gaming must, especially in ray traced 1440 or 1080p gaming. It simply redefines all of its pricing segment. But more important than that, ASUS with its TUF series really brought a bunch of real improvements compared to its NVIDIA's Founder Edition variant. First, we have such a better cooling solution which allows a hefty overclocking ability of the video card and keep it cool as ice all along, giving that durability quality that the TUF 3060 Ti wants to guarantee. ASUS did an amazing job at really adding engineering value to the product. And so, in a nutshell, and very short, if you're a pro gamer or an enthusiast gamer out there on a budget, on a sub $1,000 gaming build, what the TUF 3060 Ti brings here is way beyond its value. And frankly talking, there is absolutely nowhere else your money wants to be.